Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Years after buying the Vancouver Canucks, the team's billionaire owners are facing a massive tax bill also.
And then with the tape in front of the building, you knew that something significant had happened.
An intruder under arrest after a bizarre break-in at a North Vancouver apartment building. And
I came with a Flames fan, a Canucks fan, and a Lightning fan, so we're kind of a band of misfits.
The NHL draft is underway in Vancouver. Who will the Canucks pick, and could they make a trade?
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. It has been more than 10 years since the Aquilini Group bought the Vancouver Canucks, but the tax bill related to that purchase is still up in the air.
this week, a tax court judge said millions of dollars of taxes are still due on income used to buy the team. Jason Proctor has our top story.
The Aquilini's quest for ownership of the Vancouver Canucks began in 2004. The deal was controversial enough on its own because a pair of Vancouver businessmen went to court claiming Francesco Aquilini had gone behind their backs to buy the team from an American billionaire. But the tax implications have continued to this day. That's because in order to buy the Canucks, the Aquilinis needed to raise some money. So they sold a giant West Edmonton apartment complex for about $148 million. The Canada Revenue Agency says more than $40 million worth of that money was taxable. But instead, the Aquilinis tried to offset their income by buying an insolvent company with about $121 million in losses on its books, and then assigning the losses to three of the Aquilini brothers, their mother, and an investment firm. In 2011, the CRA said the family members should have paid tax on about $40 million worth of income from the sale of that Edmonton apartment building, not the few $100,000 worth of income the family claimed. Now, a tax court judge has upheld that decision. Experts tell the CBC the final tax bill could be upwards of about $10 million. But the fight is nowhere near over because the Aquilinis say they plan to appeal. Jason Proctor, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, Vancouver is the center of the hockey world tonight.
Yes, players, their families, and team officials are all packed into Rogers Arena right now for the 2019 NHL Draft.
CBC's Dan Burnaby is live at Rogers Arena tonight. And Dan, who are the Canucks looking to pick up tonight?
Well, it depends on who you ask, and there are a lot of opinions here. Mike, we're just in the media scrum area where there are all sorts of players coming and going. The Sedins were just here a short time ago. Intrigue abounds. You have all these teams jockeying for position. The Canucks, at last check, are set to pick 10th, but that could move and that could change depending on what trades they are able to make. And we did ask fans earlier today who they hope the Canucks pick up. Take a listen. Is it a defenseman? Is it a scorer? What do you want the Canucks to get?
I think we need an offensive defenseman. So Tyson Barrie would be my wish list, but is that tampering?
I guess I'd say the best player available. I'd love to see him somehow trade up to first overall and get Jack Hughes, but that's probably not going to happen. So just some fireworks from Jim Benning, so we've got some things to cheer for.
Honestly, there's such a good bunch of group of guys at the top of the draft. Be happy with anybody. If anybody, though, Turcotte, Doc, Byram, yeah.
How are you getting along with other fans in different jerseys?
Not too bad. I came with a Flames fan, a Canucks fan, and a Lightning fan, so we're kind of a band of misfits.
But they are having a lot of fun here, as are a lot of the media, world media. In fact, Swedish media were just interviewing the Sedins, and that's because a short time ago, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, who was greeted with the traditional round of boos, announced that the Canucks jerseys will be retired in February, and the Dragon Slayer, former Canuck Alex Burrows, will be inducted into the Ring of Honor here at Rogers Arena. So as soon as we know who the Canucks pick at number 10, or if they decide to trade for a different pick, we'll let you know. Anita, Mike?
All right, Dan Burnaby live at Rogers Arena tonight. Thank you.
An alleged intruder is in hospital tonight with serious injuries after falling several stories from a North Vancouver apartment building. And as the CBC's Tina Lovegreen reports, the incident now involves the police watchdog.
Bloodstains frame the broken window where the incident unfolded.
With the tape in front of the building, you knew that something significant had happened.
At around 8 o'clock last night, this otherwise quiet neighborhood was swarmed by police cars.
I came out and there must have been, I don't know, 10 or 12 cop cars from here to the corner and around the corner.
Police responding to calls that a man had broken into this apartment complex in Lynn Valley. Neighbors say the man went through this first floor patio, ran past the homeowner, through the hallway into a second unit, and then up to the third floor, where they say he ran into an apartment unit where a mother lives with her adult daughter. Neighbors describe the man as being in distress and allege he grabbed a kitchen knife and that he asked the woman to call 911. Shortly after police arrived, the man jumped or fell from the third floor window and into the first floor patio.
Now multiple fractures. We don't have details on that exactly, but yeah, serious injuries. He's in hospital.
The police watchdog is now looking at whether any of the actions of the police led to why the man in his 40s fell or jumped from the window.
The police were on scene and were investigating this man's entry into these various dwellings, and he winds up injured. We have to investigate.
North Vancouver RCMP say no charges have been laid. They're investigating the incident as multiple burglary offenses. Police say the man was known to them.
Can't tell you at this point whether mental health was a factor, but certainly it is an issue that we will be looking at.
Meanwhile, the IIO is asking anyone with video footage to come forward. Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, North Vancouver.
We're learning tonight that another arrest has been made in connection with the death of Surrey's Kieran Desi. Investigators confirm 2 men were arrested this afternoon for their alleged role in the murder of the 19-year-old. IHIT is not providing more information at this time, but is holding a press conference tomorrow. Harjot Singh Dio, Desi's boyfriend, was charged with second-degree murder, and his mother and sister both charged with accessory after the fact for their alleged role in the murder.
A 60-year-old woman is dead and 2 other people are in hospital after an early morning apartment fire in Saanich. Just before dawn, fire crews were called to the apartment as flames quickly spread through the 4 top-floor units. 4 people had to be rescued from their balconies. The woman who died was found unresponsive in a hallway of the building after the fire had been put out. One resident says everything happened so quickly, he didn't even have time to throw on a shirt.
Usually it's more or less like, people pull a fire alarm and it's more or less a prank, but, you don't really expect it to happen like this. And when it does, it's kind of, it wakes you up a little bit, right?
Cause of the fire is still under investigation.
The 33-year-old man hit by a bus in North Burnaby last week has been declared brain dead, although he does remain on life support. The BC Coroner Service says he is not expected to survive. The man was hit by a bus earlier this month after what officers described as an argument with another person. 2 men were arrested at the scene, but both have since been released. No charges have been laid.
A 3-year-old boy has gone missing in Surrey, and police are asking for the public's help to try to locate him. Bryson Tone was last seen June 18th in the 11,200 block of 126A Street in Surrey. At the time, he was with his mother, Melissa Suseal, and father Dallas Tone. Although Bryson is now 3, the photo being circulated shows him when he was just 1. He's described as Métis, approximately 3 feet tall, weighing about 35 pounds. He has shoulder-length brown hair, brown eyes. Police believe Bryson is with his parents and say he isn't in any harm, but they would still like to speak with the parents.
Well, between May 5th and June 1st, scooters and e-bikes accounted for more than 20% of all vehicles stolen in Vancouver. The VPD says that number is double compared with the previous 4-week period. And today, police gave an example here, showing just how easy it is for thieves to take someone's ride. Warm weather and high gas prices are cited as possible reasons for the increase in thefts.
Don't leave any spare keys attached to the bike. A lot of these scooters or e-bikes have storage compartments on them, under the seat or on saddlebags. Don't leave your spare key anywhere on that bike, because a thief can simply come along, break into that, and take your key and ride your bike away.
Other ways to keep scooters or e-bikes safe include locking them to fixed structures using a disc brake, locking mechanism, and always parking in a well-lit, busy area.
The UBC Staff Association is calling on the university to cancel a speaker slated for Sunday who is against the provincial policy around sexual orientation and gender identity, or SOGI. Jen Smith will deliver a speech on transgender politics in schools and how it undermines freedoms and harms women and children. The Staff Association says it has been contacted by members who feel the speech will put their safety at risk. It says freedom of speech doesn't apply when promoting hate.
Without putting too fine a point on it, what President Ono and the university have done they've decided that providing a platform to a bigot is more important than the wellness and well-being of students, staff, and faculty at the university.
In a statement, UBC says the event is not sponsored by the university and that it's committed to the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion.
A bill to ban oil tankers in BC's northern waters has narrowly passed in the Senate. The Oil Tanker Moratorium Act stops tankers carrying more than 12,500 tons of certain types of oils from stopping or unloading at ports along the northern coast. This area stretches from the northern tip of Vancouver Island to the Alaska border. If caught, violators may be subject to penalties up to a maximum of $5 million.
A warning now from the province's chief veterinary officer to make sure pet rabbits are properly vaccinated. That's after several died of a highly contagious disease at a downtown Vancouver apartment building. Rabbit hemorrhagic disease is extremely infectious and potentially lethal. Rabbits often die suddenly but can show signs of listlessness, trouble breathing, and lack of coordination. Rabbit owners in that apartment building are now prohibited from moving their pets around and have been ordered to ensure their pets have been vaccinated. The disease was previously found on Vancouver Island, Richmond, and in Delta.
While dry, sunny days are usually seen as a good thing, there are some downsides that we're being hit with right now. Despite some scattered rain showers in the Okanagan, the province has now elevated the area to level 3 drought conditions. Officials point to a lower snowpack and reduced rainfall as the cause. People are being urged to reduce water use, especially as the region is expecting a hot summer forecast. Parts of the Kootenays, Vancouver Island, and northern BC are also experiencing drought.
Brett's here with the first check of the forecast. Nobody likes the rain, of course, but we really do need it.
Sometimes you do.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think this is going to be one of those weekends where we're going to get something to please just about everyone. If you enjoy the sun and you want to get out there to do some physical activity, Saturday is definitely going to be the day to do that. But we do have some much needed rain on the way for Sunday. And I'm going to give you those full details in the next weather segment coming up. But let's take a quick look right now at what our current temperatures are across the lower mainland. Honestly, this is pretty bang on. We are in the first day of summer. It is exciting. Temperatures right around 20 degrees. This is pretty fantastic. And I mean, it's pretty great because if you looked at what was going on in other parts of the country, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but I wanted to show you some imagery here. Careful, this might be disturbing to some. This is actual snowfall that was happening last night into this morning for parts of the Rockies. There were parts of the Icefield Parkway over in Alberta that got up to a foot of snow. People were actually stuck in traffic and built snowmen to pass the time. How does that sound to you, right? Not necessarily how I would want to be passing that time. That said, temperatures throughout the overnight period tonight are going to be going down to just about that 12-14 degree mark. So it's not going to be too cold, but if you do have any late night plans, definitely bring an extra layer with you. Fortunately, that rain is going to be staying off, as I said, more so until about Sunday. So we're not looking at a ton here, but it is going to be something that is much needed for the region because, of course, as we just heard, places are already in drought conditions and we got to get better.
Yes, we do. Thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
And of course, we always like to remind you that you can take us wherever you go. Just download the free CBC Gem mobile app to watch this show and all your other favorite CBC programs live and on demand.
However, Gem is only available inside Canada, so follow CBC Vancouver on Facebook and YouTube. Then you'll be able to watch us wherever you are in the world. Well, today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and celebrations are being held right across the country. We'll show you how people in Vancouver spent the day next.
And for those of you watching us on Facebook or on our CBC Gem app, we are going to have a little fun on this Friday at our expense. One of our editors, Peter Layton, has been keeping a close eye on us when we're not on camera.
Yes, he has, and he's put together a blooper reel of sorts. So kick back and enjoy as we peel back the curtains of our newscast.
And maybe life is letting people be just what they want to be. The door always must be left unlocked. To love when circumstance may lead someone away from you.
I'm on the edge of glory. June 28th at the Rickshaw Theatre.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd go.
That'd be a great place to see.
Can I ask a really stupid question?
Maybe.
Where's the Rickshaw Theatre? You don't know?
Would I know?
God, what a loser.
Soderham, Brett Soderham. Okay.
Soderholm.
Soderholm. Oh, good thing we checked.
That's okay. I get anything from Soderham to Solderham to Solderholm to Sonderham.
Soderholm.
Yeah.
Soderholm.
And can you just watch to make sure there's no one in the background doing anything weird?
Silly, yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to move?
Just a second, please, okay?
Camera guy, do you want the doobie?
No, it's okay. Just give me just 2 minutes, okay?
Benny and the Jets. Benny.
Benny and the Jets.
I'm gonna do one more. Wake my lips up.
Is that better? Is that okay? It's okay, right? Looks good. Now I'm just gonna chill.
The hair.
What do you mean?
Why? Oh, we are?
We are on now. Oh, this one's going in the next blooper reel, apparently.
Yes, Peter's been saving a lot of tape. I know
Yes.
it's not tape anymore, but you know.
Although he seems to only pick the shots of me wearing glasses, which I rarely do, so not sure what he's...
That's just a coincidence. I'm
Yes. And a good reminder that even when we're not live, someone is always watching.
Back with more news in just a couple of seconds.
It is National People's Day, and throughout the day, we seem to be having a technical issue there. All right, it is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and throughout the day, BC's First Nations have been getting together to celebrate their heritage.
Here's a look at the festivities earlier today at Trout Lake.
Today's all about Aboriginal Day. I feel where everyone is coming together, where you can meet different tribes, different nations, and you be able to greet yourself, right?
It's like it's our day, right? We never had this before. We had other days that belonged to other nation or the country, you know, but didn't recognize our people. So they ask. We like to have a day for ourselves.
It's a big thing for us, you know, celebrating our heritage and our history.
Connecting with new people, old friends.
Yes, new friends, old friends.
So I'm very grateful to be here. I think this is the 3rd year I've got to be your MC.
I like doing this only because I get to meet everyone. I say hi. I'm a pretty friendly guy, so I talk to quite a bit of people. But it is where Aboriginals can come to this place, listen to some great music, meet awesome artists at the vendors that we have here. There's a few trucks that sell Aboriginal food. So traditional foods are like salmon and fry bread and Indian tacos, of course, you know. So it's where everyone can come together and meet.
BC is so sacred province. You know, it really is a strong, powerful, sacred province. You know, that's why everybody loves BC. Vancouver is the top, almost around the world or wherever. We got a lot of everything here, you know.
Very nice. A father and son carving team unveiled their reconciliation pole outside the Vancouver School District's Education Centre today. The reconciliation pole and two smaller welcome figures represent a national first for an educational institution. They are both carved out of centuries-old cedar logs. The artists represent local First Nations, the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh.
And the Musqueam Band and Vancouver International Airport haven't always seen eye to eye.
In 1931, band members were forced from their homes when the airport's first runway was built. A lot has changed.
As the CBC's Deborah Gilbel reports, a recent agreement has allowed YVR and the Musqueam to forge a unique working relationship.
Born and raised on the Musqueam Reserve, John Hardy never considered working groundside security for the Vancouver airport, even though it sits on Musqueam land.
No, because I'm a carpenter and electrician as a trade.
Until one day he ran into Mary Point.
She asked me how I was doing because I had had a heart attack last year. And I said, the doctor said I had to walk a lot, so she said, there's a job for you.
A fairly new position, Point's job is meant to give band members employment opportunities at the airport.
There are currently 6,000 jobs available here at the airport. And that is everything from barista to management. And we have a look at their resume and try to match up their skill set with one of those many opportunities.
Ever since the first runway displaced band members from their homes back in 1931, the two sides have tried to find common ground. But it wasn't until 2017 when they signed the Friendship and Sustainability Agreement.
I think what we're doing here is making new multi-generational stories to tell. This is reconciliation in action.
Those who worked on the agreement say its success has to do with all the people working together.
Well, the people who are at the boards, the people who are starting to understand the significance and the importance of bringing Indigenous people to the table as they sit and talk about where they're going in the future.
Taxi.
To date, 90 Musqueam band members have jobs at the airport, each one a reminder to visitors of Canada's Indigenous roots.
I like it pretty good. I get to meet a lot of different people, and it does make them understand more of the Aboriginal people in this neighborhood.
And that story is really important because it's the foundational piece of who the City of Vancouver is.
Both the Airport Authority and the Musqueam are often asked how they were able to successfully reach their agreement. Their answer? Mutual respect. Deborah Goebel, CBC News, Richmond.
Coming up after the break, what you can do to help stop the spread of an invasive pest eating its way through Metro Vancouver plants.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It has been more than 10 years since the Aquilini Group bought the Vancouver Canucks, but the tax bill related to that purchase is still up in the air. This week, a tax court judge said there is still millions of dollars of taxes due on income used to buy the team.
The street was all cordoned off with tons of RCMP presence, and the front of this building across the road here, which is normally exceptionally quiet, was all taped off with police tape.
A man has been arrested and taken to hospital with serious injuries after an intruder broke into a North Vancouver apartment building last night. Police say the knife-carrying suspect climbed to the second floor and barricaded himself in one of the units.
The Vancouver Canucks draft from St. Petersburg of the KHL, Vasily Podstrofan.
Well, the Canucks have their man picking Vasily Podkolzin at this year's NHL draft here in Vancouver. The team also announcing Daniel and Henrik Sedin's numbers will be retired, and Alex Burrows will go into the team's Ring of Honor. Well, a containment zone surrounds much of Vancouver right now in hope of keeping a plant-eating pest from spreading.
As John Hernandez reports, now you are being asked to help stop the Japanese beetle.
It might only be the size of a thumbnail, but this small beetle has an appetite.
Blueberries, roses, and of course the trees all around. So any plant you see behind us, for example, they probably would attack and eat.
The Japanese beetle is an invasive species. It eats through hundreds of different plants. The insect made its way into Vancouver about 2 years ago. The Park Board and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency have been fighting to squash it ever since.
They are big eaters. So, of course, we're concerned. I think the industry is concerned as a whole, and the nursery industry, the crop growers, everybody, and every homeowner should be. I mean, Vancouver's a beautiful city.
No one knows how it got here. The first sightings were at David Lamb Park, but the containment area has grown. It now includes part of Kitsilano, all of downtown, and Stanley Park.
They're notorious hitchhikers, so it could be a picnic basket, a jacket, a bicycle, a car. They will attach themselves. They can fly, and they will fly up into trees.
Residents inside the containment zone could face fines by moving plants and soil outside of it. Instead, the city has set up this transfer station for excess green waste. Parks have been sprayed and hundreds of traps set up.
These beetles defoliate, so they take and they eat shrubs and they eat the leaves off the trees. They will take out grass areas. They can be very destructive.
Gardener Laura Doheny has been checking her plants to make sure the bugs don't make it inside her store, which sits just outside the containment zone. She's urging her customers to be vigilant. Residents can invest in traps of their own, as well as sprays to kill the beetle larvae.
If you feel that you have an issue, that you're not sure of what it is, or you have a bug that you find in your garden that you can't identify, it's one of those things we say, take a picture.
Officials say if you do see one in your garden, try to catch it, report it, and kill it. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
6:30, Friday evening. Live look from downtown Vancouver tonight. The weekend is here, so is Brett. His first forecast coming up next.
I'm not loving this weather. It is very cloudy and cold outside.
Right now? Are we looking at the same sky?
What city are you in?
Doesn't it look cloudy out? Maybe it's the
we do have a bit of shading here to prevent the
on
light from coming in, but I was just out there and I'll assure you it's actually really nice.
because it looks really cloudy, so forget that. Then I'm loving the weather.
Don't worry, and also you still have about 3 hours from right now to go out and catch the sunset, because it's actually not going to set in Vancouver until about 9:22. So this is one of the latest sunsets of the year. But on the note of sunset, let's try sunrise. If you want to see how this actually started off, check out these beautiful, brilliant flashes of pink and orange coming up across those mountains there. I mean, for the first day of summer, I think that is a pretty spectacular way to start it off. And I think we're going to be seeing something very similar, at least when it comes to tomorrow. Now, I alluded to the fact that over the course of this weekend, we're not necessarily going to be getting a whole, mixture of everything. We're going to be getting a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Let's take a look at our weekend planner right now. So if you've got any events planned for Friday night, don't worry about bringing an umbrella or anything. Temperatures are going to go down to about 12 degrees, so a little on the cool side, but only a few clouds expected. Saturday, this is the day to get outside and enjoy it. We've got a nice mixture of sun and clouds. Daytime high of about 20 degrees, which again, fairly seasonal for this time of year. And Sunday, if you have any indoor cleaning to do, if you just want to relax, maybe it's a Netflix binge day, I don't know, you can definitely feel comfortable doing that on Sunday with some light rain, which of course we do actually need. To give you a bit more of a look at what the province is looking at weather-wise, I wanted to show you that this rain that I mentioned is going to be happening more so on Sunday, and we're going to notice here that around the Lower Mainland, it's not a guarantee throughout the whole day on Sunday, but it is going to be a little bit more widespread as we head east into the Fraser Valley, and that is actually going to be the trend for us when we start off next week. So come Monday, I think everyone right around the south coast is going to be getting into some rain. Now, the totals here are not overly impressive, but it is something we need to keep in mind to be grateful for any little bits of rain that are falling out of the sky. Really just trace millimeters over toward Vancouver, but down toward the Fraser Valley, we could be getting into that 5 to 10 range. And as I said, high to extreme danger rating right now, so that rain is going to help. Now, as we look ahead to the next 5 days, here's what you can be expecting throughout that time. 20 degrees is going to be expected, as I mentioned, on Saturday. Sunday, 18 and a few showers. Monday, as I mentioned, is a similar story for that. And then Tuesday into Wednesday, we go right back to seasonal with a few clouds to be expected. So all in all, a nice little mixture of everything.
Okay, not so bad for summer solstice.
Exactly. It was a pretty good one, I would say.
I didn't get outside.
No. Oh, okay. Well.
Okay. Anyway, we're done with this.
Yes.
All right. A third weekend of people rallying in the streets of Hong Kong. After the break, why protesters are showing no signs of backing down.
I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Don't miss the Vancouver Art Gallery's exhibition this summer, Alberto Giacometti, A Line Through Time, from June 16th to September 29th, proudly sponsored by CBC Vancouver. And don't miss Silk Road Festival. This free 2-day outdoor multicultural festival features diverse cultural performances, food and beverage demonstrations, crafts, and more. Check us out online, cbc.ca/BC.
Donald Trump says he called off a U.S. military attack on targets in Iran because too many people would have been killed.
As Lindsay Duncombe reports, the American president is also refuting earlier reports planes were already in the air before he scrubbed the mission.
Cocked and loaded. That is how close the president says the United States was to attacking 3 targets in Iran last night. Then, 10 minutes before the attack, Donald Trump says he asked a general how many people were likely to die as a result. The answer, 150. Here's how the president described his decision to stop the attack to NBC News.
They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it, and here we are sitting with 150 dead people. That would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead. Yeah. And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
National security experts have pointed out a casualty assessment is usually part of the early stages of planning an operation, not delivered just before an attack. There is some speculation that this was a deliberate move, a way to get Iran back to the negotiating table. Iran showed off wreckage of what it says was the United States drone today. It says the drone was in Iranian airspace and that the Americans were warned before it was shot down. Iran is also believed to be behind attacks on tankers in the Straits of Hormuz. The aggression a response to crippling U.S. sanctions that have dramatically reduced oil exports in the country. On Capitol Hill, the president's supporters approve of his approach.
President Trump ran as a very different kind of Republican, somebody who wanted to end wars, not start them. And I think that he is utilizing appropriate caution. That doesn't mean that we're going to allow the activities of Iran to go unanswered, but it doesn't mean we have to start a multi-decade war.
But there is also concern that this almost attack could have dangerous consequences. Iran has the capacity to target U.S. forces and allies in the region. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
To Hong Kong now, where a third weekend of mass protests is underway over a controversial extradition bill.
The government has already bowed to public pressure, suspending the bill indefinitely. But as Sasha Petrusik reports, the protesters still aren't backing down.
Students have always been on the front lines of Hong Kong's fight for democracy, and so it was today. With wildcat protests, they blocked major roads. They jammed entrances to the legislature, and they vowed to protect core values like freedom of speech.
I think Hong Kong people do not want our core value is damaged by the government again and again.
In true student fashion, the call to arms came online in the form of an animated graphic novel. They're portrayed as the heroes. Their nemesis is Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam, who tried to introduce a law that would allow Hong Kong residents to be extradited to China to face trial. Protests like these forced her to put passage of the law on hold, but she's refused to kill it altogether. The biggest student demonstration of all today drew tens of thousands to Hong Kong police headquarters. They surrounded the building, jeering and throwing eggs and refusing to let officers go home as night fell. The protesters want an apology. They are upset with the police over actions last week. There were protests last week, and confrontations with these demonstrators. Police used rubber bullets and lots of tear gas, something that Amnesty International has called excessive force. Tensions rose a few times as it looked like riot police might come out again.
I think everyone here is afraid of the inappropriate force used by police, but we still step out because we need to fight for better futures.
Many ended up staying the night, vowing to keep up the pressure tomorrow. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Hong Kong.
The parents of a British-Canadian man who became known as Jihadi Jack have been found guilty of funding terrorism.
It's because they sent money to their son despite warnings he had joined ISIS in Syria. CBC's Dave Seglins has the details from London.
The parents of Jihadi Jack were in an untenable bind. Their son, 5 years ago, had converted to Islam and told them he was going traveling to Jordan to learn Arabic. However, he turned up in Syria and, according to prosecutors, had joined ISIS, posting online his support of martyrdom and his support and sympathy for the Paris nightclub shooting attackers. Well, his parents, John Lett, a Canadian-born, and his UK wife, Sally Lane, raised their son in Oxford. They say they were contacted by their son, Jack, saying he had had a change of heart through the war in Syria and, in fact, had disavowed ISIS and was trying to flee from Syria, and he was begging them for money. Police and prosecutors say the parents were warned not to send the money.
It's not for individuals to decide when it applies to them or when it doesn't. And the really strong message is, you know, despite whatever you might think you're doing, ultimately you're breaking the law, and that's not okay.
Nonetheless, they sent 1,700 British pounds. They were charged with funding terrorism. And today, a jury here in London found them guilty of a single charge of sending £1,700. They were given a 15-month suspended sentence. Now, Crown prosecutors this afternoon have issued a statement saying, look, it's natural for parents to care for their son, but they were warned of Jack's activities and told not to send him any money or risk prosecution. The parents chose to ignore that advice. Now, the parents maintain their son has since disavowed ISIS and terrorism. However, Jihadi Jack, or Jack Lett, was arrested 2 years ago on the border between Syria and Turkey, and at age 23, he remains in prison in a Kurdish jail. Dave Seglin, CBC News, London.
He was once a contender for the leadership of the federal Conservatives, but now as leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier offered a blunt dismissal of his old party and its leader, Andrew Scheer.
This Conservative Party of Canada is intellectually and morally corrupt. They don't have any platform, they don't have any vision for this country. Andrew Scheer said that the Conservative Party of Canada, it is a centrist and pragmatic political party with lots of ideas for a lot of people. So, translation, I will tell you what you want to hear. I don't have any vision for this country.
Bernier was in Toronto this afternoon to present a slate of 39 People's Party candidates who plan to run in Ontario ridings in the October federal election. Among them, Renata Ford, widow of former Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. Bernier says he's leading a team of free market advocates who believe climate change is real and don't think human activity is the main cause of it. The People's Party now has 271 candidates across the country.
And Canada's top soldier is warning about the impact climate change is having on our military.
As Halima Shivji reports, the forces are now rethinking how they train and deploy soldiers.
As the days dragged into weeks this spring with floodwaters threatening homes, more and more reservists worked on the front line. Lawyers,
a lot of them are just really thankful.
And students.
When I got on the ground and it was here like 30 minutes from my house, like that was a moment for me. I was like, okay, like these are people like in my community who need my help.
It's become the new normal. The armed forces deployed for more natural disasters here at home than missions overseas. One Army operation to tackle extreme weather in 2016 morphed into 6 in each of the last 2 years. Often emotional work for the soldiers.
At home, it's very direct. They're helping someone save their home.
there's a very tangible emotional link to that.
Not a burden, but it is a significant strain, says the chief of the defense staff.
Our force structure right now, I would say, is probably too small to be able to deal with all of the tasks that we had anticipated. We're looking at the force structure, the people and how they're organized to see if we've got it right. I suspect we don't.
That means a need for more specialized training like this, or even dedicated units. And the strain on the military will only get worse when melting ice up north brings with it more access. Cruise ships running into trouble, a potential nightmare for search and rescue, with most Army bases operating far away. But there's also the threat of foreign vessels gunning for trouble.
A ship inside our territorial waters that refuses to leave or continues to challenge, all the way through to military forces encroaching in our space to send a signal or to distract us or to do damage to Canada.
A worst-case scenario that the military is now forced to consider. For the Chief of the Defense Staff, it's a work in progress to make sure Canada is ready to respond when that future arrives. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada is making more basketball history.
Yes, 6 young players from this country have been drafted to the NBA. None of them will play for the current champs, the Toronto Raptors, at least not this year.
So where are they going? Here's Greg Ross.
That was the moment Mariel Shayok's dream came to fruition.
It's a surreal moment.
Shayok watched the NBA draft with his family in Ottawa. He had no guarantees he would be picked. Today, he boarded a plane to Philadelphia after being drafted 54th overall by the 76ers.
And coming from the place I came from, a lot of kids dream and few make it a reality.
Shayok was just part of this record-breaking draft, with the most Canadians ever selected into the NBA in the same year.
The New York Knicks select R.J. Barrett.
Toronto's R.J. Barrett led the way, selected 3rd overall by the New York Knicks. He shared this emotional moment with his father, Rowan Barrett, a former player on the Canadian national team.
Very proud. I'm proud of you, son.
These are the moments that are inspiring the next generation.
I hope I get to that stage in basketball.
So what are you going to do to get there?
Practice more, maybe, join a league or something.
Or maybe a basketball camp.
Can't wait to see how much love throughout the country, the fans that didn't get a chance to be here.
Fresh off an NBA championship run with the Raptors, star player Danny Green is just about to embark on a cross-country tour hosting basketball camps where he hopes to help young Canadians follow those dreams.
One day it'd be amazing or great to see a kid, I was at your camp, who makes it to NBA or gets drafted. I was in Danny Green camp when he came to town or tour.
It's exactly the kind of thing Alias Sabate has been doing for the last decade. He runs a company called North Pole Hoops, and they help Canadians get noticed south of the border.
I'm talking hundreds of coaches from the U.S. are now coming into Canada.
So much so, he says there has never been a better time for Canadians in basketball.
So this is the easiest time for a kid to get noticed. If they really, really want it, there's going to be a lot of sacrifice. There's going to be a lot of hours to chase these guys that you're seeing like RJ.
Sabate says he's already working with the next crop of aspiring basketball players for next year's draft. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And of course, it's the NHL's turn tonight as we host hockey's annual draft. Vancouver picking 10th overall. And while the NBA might have seen a record number of Canadians taken, the Canucks went a different route.
The Vancouver Canucks draft from St. Petersburg of the KHL, Vasily Podstrophe.
Okay, so a bit of a mispronunciation there from Canucks legend Stan Smil. Vasily Podkolzin is 17 years old, and he captained Team Russia to silver at the Under-18 World Championships.
Also some big news just before the draft began concerning a pair of iconic Canucks.
Wait, I have something for you which I think will change the mood. This February, your jerseys will be retired as part of a week-long celebration.
Sedin Celebration Week will take place over 3 consecutive home games next February. Specific days will be confirmed once the regular season schedule is released. They'll be the 5th and 6th Canucks to have their jerseys retired. And the team also announcing Alex Burrows will go into the team's Ring of Honor. The longtime fan favorite retired last year. The Ring of Honor was launched in the 2010-2011 season to celebrate Canucks heroes who have made a lasting impact on the franchise.
Jesse, Ham, Buzz, Bo, Rex, Potato Head.
Hey, watch it, buddy.
24 years on, it's back, along with some familiar and unfamiliar characters. The 4th franchise in Toy Story returns. Is it worth the trip to the theater? Eli has his review next.
Hi, I'm Laura Lynch in for Stephen Quinn. A BC man who startled a grizzly sow with cubs on Mother's Day survived the attack, but the nightmares have continued. We will hear his story of trauma and survival on Monday. That's coming up on the Early Edition.
It's a summer movie landscape filled with sequels and remakes.
Yep, Sheriff Woody and Buzz Lightyear are back on screen with some new pals. 24 years, that's hard to believe. Yeah. 24 years after Toy Story first hit theaters.
Eli Glasner will tell us whether it's worth another trip to the toy chest.
When we first catch up with Woody and friends, they're now part of little Bonnie's collection, and Woody's still adjusting to not being her favorite. Then Bonnie comes home from kindergarten with a new toy, a sentient spork named Forky.
Woody? Why am I alive? You are a toy. You belong to Bonnie. These are your friends.
Woody, I have a question. Well, actually, not just one. I have all the questions.
And Forky just wants to return to the trash where he thinks he belongs. But when Woody and Forky get separated, the toy gang find themselves at a carnival trying to free Forky from the clutches of Gabby Gabby and her army of creepy dummies. Yeah, they really are creepy. and dummies. Now, I wasn't a big fan of Toy Story 3, but the mix of new faces is part of what brought me back on board. There's Key and Peele as Ducky and Bunny, carnival plushies with attitude. And the voice of Christina Hendricks makes Gabby sad, sweet, and sinister. Plus, Bo Peep returns to show Woody there's more to life than playtime. And then there's Keanu Reeves. That's right, another film featuring Keanu. This time, he's playing Duke Kaboom, an evil Knievel like motorcycle-riding stuntman with a Canadian connection. Now, I could play you a clip from the film, but I want us to have the full Keanu experience. So this is straight from the voice booth.
Look who jumped 40 school buses and landed back into my life.
Hi, Duke.
Who's the cowboy?
Duke, meet Woody. Woody, meet...
Duke Kaboom, Canada's greatest stuntman. Huh. Oh, yeah. Ha, 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 ha. Hold on, one more. Oh, yeah.
Keanu Reeves just living his best life right now. But if this installment is anyone's, it's Woody's. What makes Toy Story 4 richer and deeper is the cowboy's existential crisis. This cartoon delves into the cosmology of the Toy Story universe. Why are we here? What's our purpose? What happens when our masters move on? Considering the kids who grew up on the series could now be in their 30s, this is the perfect way to finish the franchise. That is, if Pixar knows when to stop. 4 stars out of 5. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
We knew it. 4 stars.
Yes, and he's right. Some of the kids that watched the original one, well, in my case, they're almost in their 30s.
I cannot believe it's been 24 years.
Oh, I love it, love it. And Tom Hanks and Tim Allen's still back doing the voices for Woody and Buzz. And I've seen a couple of interviews with them. They're still having a riot,
I
too.
bet, yeah.
Getting paid a lot, too, but they're having fun.
And Keanu now, he's in everything right now. People are loving him.
Yeah,
He's
love the
come back.
Canadian connection, too.
Yes. That's it for today.
That's it for today.
And it's Friday, so it's the weekend. Yay. Dan Bird is here. He'll be back from the draft at 11 o'clock after the National.
Have a great weekend.
Good night.